Hi guys, so today I'm going to be talking about my three identities, what I learned about myself this semester, and what I learned in general. The three things that I identify with the most are race, gender, and motherhood. I'm going to start with race. I'm mixed, like I'm Mexican and white, and even though I'm really intrigued by my Mexican heritage, I identify as white. I grew up in a really small community, like a small town in Montana, and everybody there is white, and there's not that much diversity. So, part of the reason, as far as like something that I learned this semester, I learned that I'm more privileged than I was aware of. And I think that this is because I grew up the way that I did. Everybody was the same color. So everything that I did and was privileged with was just normal for me. It wasn't like compared to anything else. I didn't have anything else to compare it to. Um, so I was pretty naive about it until I moved to Colorado. And once I got here, I started to recognize a little bit, but I still wasn't all the way aware. Like I used to get really offended by the term white privilege. I would like tell myself it's unfair for people of other races to categorize me as being a white privileged person and like tell me I don't understand like the struggle of any other color. And um, I would always get offended by that, but I've really like learned that that was really just kind of an ignorant standpoint, and I actually am privileged in a lot of ways. And I was always thinking that it was like I've earned everything that I have, and I've worked so hard for it, which is true, but there's a lot of things that were handed to me that I didn't think about. So for example, I for example, healthcare. We've talked a lot about healthcare in the class when it comes to people being oppressed. So I never even realized that people of color have issues with this because I've always had the best care when I go to doctors. I've never had any issues. A couple of other examples are like I don't have any fears when I get pulled over by a cop, and I don't feel the need to record it. I can walk into a store and not be worried about being followed or accused of stealing. I can use whatever slang I want and not be viewed any different. I can turn on the TV and I can like see my race like represented. Um, even with like simple things like skincare, like I can buy things in the store that like blend with my skin, and I always have like a match for my face. And those are just things that like I took advantage of that I didn't realize not everybody has. You know, something that I found in my research is that being born white has allowed me to be into a system that validates and reaffirms that I'm included in like every aspect socially. I've never even like felt the need to stand up for my race or like being called racial slurs like with my white part of me. I also don't like fear like being a part of the criminal justice system. Like if I have things that I'm involved in with that, I'm not worried. Um, and it's just crazy how different it is because these are just all things I never think about just because I've never had to. And that's exactly why I'm privileged. And it's just interesting. So something that stuck with me that I like pulled from a video was that the greatest trick white privilege ever pulled was convincing the world it doesn't exist, which is exactly true. Um, so I think spreading awareness about it is really going to be a social injustice that I fight for as a social worker. For gender, this is the way that I feel oppressed. I know that women have come a long way, but there's still like stigma surrounding gender, and we're still like segregated by boy and girl. Like when I was a kid, I was always getting judged for playing with anything girly, and the main thing was like not showing weakness. Um, So like a boy couldn't show weakness is what I mean. So like you throw like a girl or you act like a girl and stuff like that. And girls would play with boy toys and like not get the same type of treatment, even though we've always been the weaker sex. As kids, we were accepted more by boys if we had any type of like strength. If we had some type of strength, then we were just like a superwoman, and that was just so original because it just was unheard of. Um, and um, I feel like as far as being a woman goes, when I was just talking about like the sensitivity part of it, it's like a catch-22 because I'm assigned the trait of sensitivity, so I have to adhere to it. If I'm ever insensitive, then I'm accused of being fake or not being a real woman at all. However, if a guy shows his sensitive side, he's seen as like compassionate and sweet. And I feel like people are all of a sudden, or men might be like intimidated by a woman who's strong, and it's just not fair, you know? So also about like being sexually active, like if I'm sexually active, then I'm a slut. If I'm not active, then me being straight is like brought into question, or am I a man hater, or is something wrong with me? Men sleep with women and they're viewed as cool and charming, but when a woman does it, like she's called a whore. So I think the oppression is like being constantly being put against the opposite gender as the weaker sex. I think it's a really big part of it. Even in like my personal life, like I'm a full-time mom to 4 kids, I'm a full-time student and a part-time employee. So I'm always expected to like upkeep the house and be the main caretaker of the kids while my boyfriend provides financially. But I'm also expected to have goals and aspirations to have a successful career, or else the man is like superior to me and I'm not as attractive as other women because I don't have goals. Instead, I'm like seen as being lazy, or I'm trying to use someone for their money. If I like fall behind on housework and like commitments to the kids because of school and work is like taking up a lot of my energy, then I'm told I'm a slacker and I'm not fulfilling my womanly duties. I'm told I need to be the one to like cook every night because I'm the mom and that's my job. But yet I'm also harped on about not helping financially. So it's just always being, I liked what we learned about being pressed in the middle. Like we're just constantly like, that's the part of the word oppression. Like we're just pressed between two things all the time, and the barriers are just like never ending. And I'm like always underappreciated for everything that I have going on in my life, but a man's like praised for doing womanly duties while working at the same time. For example, like single dads are, I guess, rare. So when there's like a single dad, they're viewed as like saints and, oh my gosh, that's so amazing that you do this by yourself. But for women, being a single parent is normal. So there's that. And then with motherhood, that's the way that I feel both. So everything I do in my life is like based on me being a mom. I had my son when I was 16, and that was when it wasn't a regular age to have a baby. So I was constantly judged and looked down on for being a young mom. With my 2 stepdaughters, I have a total of 4 kids. So they all have different last names and they all vary in race. So we aren't like allotted the same freedoms as other families. And people are really judgmental. Like when I call to make an appointment and they're like, what's the last name? And I have all these different last names and they're like, oh, and I have like this like internalized depression for the way that my family is set up. And I kind of like blame myself for that. And so it causes me to be harsh on my parenting and insecure about the way that I parent instead of being proud of it like I should be. And like being a woman and a mom intersects too when it comes to being oppressed. Like the power of a man is even more relevant when a woman becomes a mom too. Like when I want to go out and have drinks and party, I'm told I shouldn't go because I'm a mom. I'm judged for doing the same things that fathers do on a weekend basis when they need a break. I have a baby, so because of that, I'm required to stay home and be the caregiver, even though the father's equally responsible. Something else that I noticed is like medical bills. Like if there's ever a medical bill in my name, or like if the baby or my kids have a medical bill, like the collection places are always calling me and it's always on me. Like I'm financially responsible instead of both of us. However, there's also a little bit of oppression that I have as a mom. If you have a child, you automatically get like financial aid because it's based on your own income, and like you get a good tax return because it's all based on your parents. So I got like a lot of free grants where other young students couldn't even get into college without like their parents paying out of pocket. And I never realized that I had that privilege until now. I've always gotten like a tax refund, and I've never had to worry about not having insurance because I've always applied for like low income because of having a kid. Having dependents has allowed me unique benefits that others don't get. So that's that. So what I learned this semester is what I learned about myself. I kind of mentioned about my privilege, like just not realizing it. And then as far as like the gap in knowledge, I think me not being bilingual has always bothered me. Like it's really something that I think will cause me to have a barrier with clients that are from different cultures. So not only being bilingual, but like learning more about other cultures that I know nothing about, so I can be aware of the ways that they're oppressed or the things that they have issues with, so I can better serve them. And as far as what I learned in general, just the like intersectionality piece and all the different aspects of oppression that I never thought about. It's just been really mind blowing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys.